The railroad has been essential to the development and identity of the United States, serving as a crucial means of transportation and a symbol of progress. Its historical significance is evident in the westward expansion of the 19th century, particularly with the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, which connected the nation and facilitated the movement of goods and people. This not only boosted economic growth but also fostered cultural exchange, creating a shared American experience. In modern times, the railroad remains vital to the nation's infrastructure. Freight trains transport over 1.7 billion tons of goods annually, providing an efficient and environmentally friendly alternative to road transport. This helps reduce traffic congestion and lower greenhouse gas emissions, aligning with the growing focus on sustainability. Passenger rail services, such as Amtrak, further emphasize the railroad's importance by offering affordable travel options that connect urban and rural communities. This accessibility promotes social equity and allows diverse individuals to engage with different regions of the country. Moreover, the railroad industry supports millions of jobs and drives advancements in technology and engineering. As a critical asset in addressing contemporary transportation challenges, the railroad embodies the spirit of innovation and unity that defines the American experience. Its significance resonates in the lives of all Americans, linking them to their past and shaping their future.
Tail gutter. So, hey, I'd have David Coleman on the landline. So, hey, Dave, how you doing?
Doing well, Mike. How's it going tonight?
Oh, doing pretty good. I'm getting better being net controller every week here since our normal controller is relocating this business and getting it set up. So hopefully he'll be back, though. But, hey, I could use the practice. So anyway, so, yeah, I've been looking over some of your material, though, and pretty interesting things going on. So how would you like to proceed?
Yeah, let me first off start out with some sad news in the rail fan industry, and a guy actually who worked in the rail industry. His name was Kurt Warfel. He was known as Juniata, was his username on trainorders.com. Mike, he was on several rail fan and train forums, and he had quite a long career in the transportation and the logistics industry. I think he was on like some board of directors I read with the BNSF. So this guy was, I didn't really know him, Mike, but I always read his content on train orders and his posts. And he had great stuff. He always brought it, really insightful guy. And he grew up, actually, if you can believe this, between Harrisburg and Altoona on what used to be called the Pennsylvania Railroad Middle Division. Obviously, that's the Norfolk Southern Pittsburgh line in the Juniata River valleys, hence his username being Juniata. So for anyone who knows Mr. Warfel, my condolences and my thoughts and prayers are with him and his family because he was more than just a rail fan. Obviously, he had quite a big impact and really knew a lot of things about the rail industry, and we'll definitely miss him throughout train orders and anyone else who knows him. Like I said, thoughts and prayers are with friends and family.
Wow, that's a sad thing, too, though, so our wishes go out to him. Well, may he rest in peace, of course, and our best wishes to his family. So, sad thing, sad day for train orders. So, but hopefully they will have somebody maybe take his place and be just as good. So, thank you very much for that, Dave.
No doubt, yeah, no doubt, Mike. Quite a last few weeks we've had, with train information and everything like that. What's the biggest story, though, we'll start with is CSX got rid of Joe Heinrichs.
Yes, I was reading that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And president of, they got rid of him. He's pretty young, too. He's only 59. Supposedly they got rid of him on Monday. I couldn't believe they got rid of him. From what I understood, like the morale had been better, but it seems like it was an abrupt thing that happened. A lot of people might think it has to do with that he didn't want a merger with one of these other Class 1s on the heels of this UP NS potential merger. And I think the Ancoras of the world and these groups that are like these hedge fund companies, they kind of pushed him out. And I think the other thing that hurt CSX was obviously the Clinchfield, obviously the issues from the hurricane with the Clinchfield down in Appalachia, and then the tunnel, the Howard Street tunnel being built or rebuilt in Baltimore. Major projects there that put them behind the 8 ball financially. A little bit different financially than NS, obviously, from East Palestine, but obviously Wall Street is running these railroads pretty much now, and it's a sad thing, Mike, because I think people like Joe Heinrichs, but obviously they'll be moving on without him. And I guess the guy that they're bringing in, his last name is Angel, and from what I understand is a lot of people think he is a Hunter Harrison precision scheduling disciple, and he's all for a merger with one of these other bigger railroads.
Oh, no. Hope it ain't Union Pacific, too.
Yeah,
interesting.
Not good at all, man. Not good. Yeah, and
No.
I don't know. It'll be interesting what happens with that, Mike, if they let that go on or not. But it will be fascinating to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, well, only time will tell. I'm sure we're all going to find out eventually, one way or another, or one time or another. Very good. So, all right, very interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And, another story while we're talking about, obviously we mentioned NS in that briefly. Back on September 30th, NS is filing a letter with the Surface Transportation Board about deteriorating performance on the CPKC line between Meridian and Shreveport via the Meridian Speedway since CP merged with KCS. So this is like a haulage route, Mike, where obviously NS doesn't even have trackage rights. So this is like their trains are being like hauled by CP and KC, and from what I understand, they're really frustrated because I guess they're saying that the volumes of the traffic declined by 22%, and they've decreased another 10% from last year. And it sounds like they're not happy about like the way the trains are being run. They're not happy of how the trains are being accepted at Meridian. And from what it sounds like, I guess there's an issue. The track is not great on this line. I think this might have been a short line or like a regional line for many years, Mike. I've never been down in this part of the country, but I think the track was kind of rickety, and I think KCS obviously upgraded it, but it just sounds like that it's not working great. And the other thing I'm hearing is that a lot of people that are on KCS, that were KCS people, are quitting because I guess they are using the CP computer system. And then there's a lot of people that are saying the KCS engineers and conductors who have many, many years of seniority are going to work other jobs because they don't like the CP systems that they're using. So this is like a three-pronged issue here. I mean, to me, if you get Union Pacific involved with, this too as well, if they do merge with NS, I don't know, Mike. I think it could just destroy this whole service because it sounds like whatever they started, it seems like the more hands you get into this, it's just making things worse and worse. And I don't know. I mean, people thought this was going to be a business that would grow, but I think when you have a single track line and the speeds are a little bit low, yeah, it just doesn't work, Mike. It just sounds like it never worked from the beginning.
Wow, that ain't good. Not at all. So I don't know what to think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's obviously, NS is probably not to blame for this, but I think, like, Mike, this is the equivalent of getting involved in something they probably shouldn't have gotten involved with, because I think anytime you try and run, certain traffic on lines that aren't really built for high-speed running or, really built for, a success. A good example of this was CP years ago used to run a train down the Hudson line, which Hudson line we'll mention in the next story. The CP used to run a train down the Hudson line to like the Fresh Pond and the Bronx in New York City. And Mike, I'm going to tell you, that train kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and it just never worked. It never worked. So the CP, and I'll even talk a little more about them later. There's another issue they're having with a derailment that still is kind of messing some things up from what I've heard from a CP source of mine. It just seems like they try things that, maybe they shouldn't be trying. They're a little too aggressive in some of their ventures.
Wow. Oh, boy. All kinds of things happening here. Oh, man. I don't even know where to even go with that, so I'll have to figure that out, I guess. So anyway, I did notice something though about the MTA,
yeah,
which is Metropolitan Transit Authority in New York, that runs in New York City and Long Island and things like that. So
yep.
So yeah, what's going on with that? I hear something about the fare rate increase and stuff.
Yes, yeah. So this will be the first of two stories we'll talk about with Long Island, and we'll talk about that coming up. So the first story is about the rates are going to be raised, I guess, on the New York City Transit subways and buses, the Long Island Railroad, and the Metro North Railroad. The fare increases are below the inflation rate and are the result of a 6-week public comment period. The increases will roll out at the same time as the city's tap-to-pay technology in the new year. So I guess this is the fares will increase an average of 4.5% across different lines, monthly and weekly tickets.
Oh,
and
my.
Then there's yeah. So there's, quite a bit of a hike here. I think obviously, Mike, COVID is long over now. And I think people are going back to work or have been back to work in New York City for quite a while. And there's a lot of people don't really understand, like, that don't live in these major cities is, like you and I, where we rail fan, it's mainly freight. The few Amtraks we see, those are people traveling long distances across the country. But these bigger cities, a lot of people depend on these trains and these buses and subways to get to work. Because it's just not feasible for them to drive into their jobs in New York City or these bigger cities. So I think they're doing this as a result of just, hey, the sign of the times and, to stay up, obviously the cost of things is going up. And, hey, they just know that they got to do this to make money.
Wow, man. Hey, that just reminds me. I wonder what Charlie's going to do about the fare increase. You know who I'm talking about?
I do not know. Who's Charlie?
It's a legendary song by the Kingston Trio, Charlie on the MTA, and gets on the train. Well, listen to this short clip here. I don't normally play a music piece here, but I'll give you the first few bars of it here if this thing wants to call up and work properly. So listen to this real second, then I'll cut it off.
Okay.
These are the times that try men's souls. In the course of our nation's history, the people of Boston have rallied bravely whenever the rights of men have been threatened. Today, a new crisis has arisen. The Metropolitan Transit Authority, better known as the MTA, is attempting to levy a burdensome tax on the population in the form of a subway fare increase. Citizens, hear me out. This could happen to you.
Well, let me tell you of the story of a man named Charlie on a tragic and fateful day. He put 10 cents in his pocket, kissed his wife and family, went to ride on the MTA. Well, did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still...
Anyway, I'll just cut it out. I don't want to play it too long on here. Could you hear that, Dave?
I sure could. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
It is a fantastic song from 1963, the Kingston Trio, though. That whole album, though, was done very good quality by Capitol Records in the day. So I have an original copy, though, in stereo, and that is in still very good shape, though. It was my father's album, though, and I still have it. And I pulled these recordings off of that, though, and the quality back in that day and compared to now is really outstanding, though. You have to put it on a good system, though, to really enjoy it, though. But anyway, yeah, check that song out. Just Google it up, and you should be able to find somebody. Even on YouTube, you should be able to find a stream of it. So anyway, yeah, I had to play that little clip. I knew we was going to be talking about the MTA a little bit, though, so I wanted you to hear that clip, though. But very good song. In fact, I know all the lyrics by heart to this day. I can sing that song, though, just like yesterday or day it came out. I was a little kid when I learned how to sing that song. Anyway, okay, Dave, enough out of me right there, so go ahead.
Yeah, so while we're talking about New York City, about a couple weeks ago, actually, the BNSF ran a passenger, their office car train, passenger train, whatever you want to call it, to the Ryder Cup golf tournament. Obviously, Europe beat the United States in that, like they seem to do quite a bit. And, you know, they sent it, obviously, from their system out west, and they sent it over CSX's main line between Chicago and Selkirk, which was a lot of people were wondering, okay, they're not just going to watch, you know, Scotty Scheffler play against Rory McIlroy in a golf tournament. They're probably going there to inspect the CSX lines, and then obviously, you know, engage with some customers, maybe check out some things around New York City and northern New Jersey with terminals and such like that. But the story was, Mike, it was pretty interesting how the train got there.
Mm-hmm.
So the train on the Hudson line, they have an electric third rail there. And supposedly, when this train got down near Croton Harmon, which is about half hour or 40 minutes north of New York City, the passenger cars, like, I guess, suffered some damage from hitting this third rail, because they weren't, like, really, they're not prepared to do that, obviously, because none of the BNSF lines they go on are electrified. So they had to turn the train around, run it back up north to Selkirk. They had to repair it in Selkirk, and then they had to take the train east towards Springfield, Mass. on the CSX Boston line, and then they took it down through like Hartford and New Haven on Amtrak, and then they used the Northeast Corridor to get into New York City, and then they ran it down the Long Island Railroad to get out by Bethpage, where they played the Ryder Cup. So I guess it just came back west a few days ago. There was a guy on the east side of Cleveland who filmed it out towards Menor or Madison, one of those eastern suburbs, and he filmed it out there. It went by pretty late at night, so I don't know. There were rumors too, Mike, that they were stopping in North Baltimore on the way back. I don't know if they did that or not, but let's, you know, anytime a train like that goes on a long trip like that to a foreign railroad, I don't think they're just going to entertain customers at a golf tournament and watch, you know, the best golfers in the world play. I think they were doing a lot more than that, and you know, who knows? Maybe that Steve Angel, who's running CSX, was taking a little ride on that train as well. So there could be some more to that. We'll find out down the road.
Wow. That's a pretty good one there. So, okay, so what else do you have on the agenda here? We're in about 18 minutes here, so we got a little more time here.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we got so this is an article from Bruce Kelly on Railway Age back on September 30th, and Bruce was a longtime writer for Railfan and Railroad. Used to live in the Northeast, and I think he lives out in Idaho or Seattle, somewhere out west, Pacific Northwest. And he was talking about multiple factors impacting Amtrak long-distance trains, and what he's saying is that they're suffering mechanical, personnel, and performance setbacks on an almost daily basis. So, Mike, we've heard a lot of things, how they're blaming the freight railroads, how they're saying that, these long trains, the PSR, land barges are slowing down the Amtrak's.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, a lot of it is Amtrak's own equipment, from what he says in this article. And he even mentions he has a photo back in July where a BNSF freight engine basically rescued an Amtrak train at Rathdrum, Idaho. I guess the train was more than 5 hours late due to engine failure on the Portland-Spokane section. And then they blame the weather as well, like high winds, all these, crazy storms and things like that. But and they talk about how in the wintertime, obviously things can happen. Trains can, have issues where they have broken knuckles and things like that.
Yeah.
But, the thing is, Mike, I think here's the thing with Amtrak. They don't own any of these tracks, and they can sue freight railroads all they want.
Yeah,
they
I was I'm sorry, I was going to get into that with you, though. I know they were about ready to do some suing. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
But, the problem is like Amtrak, to me, they don't help themselves because, like we've talked about this with the Floridian train. They're running these trains that are just way too long. They go too far across the country. And
yeah,
they're going to be late for one reason or another. It's not always the freight railroad's problem either. Some of these Amtraks run well after dark when, who knows, there could be a lot of freights around. There might not be. But some of these Amtraks, too, obviously they have, weird situations like where, like down in the Tampa area, they have to back the train into the station. That's just a weird setup. So Amtrak logistically sometimes doesn't help themselves. I just think, Mike, to me, Amtrak it's not the way to travel. Let's be honest. I know a lot of people like traveling by train, but I think traveling by train is more like what we talked about earlier. It's in these major cities where it's a commuter train, and that's it. I love trains. You love trains.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to get on a main line behind a bunch of freight trains and run at 40 miles an hour all the way to Chicago or New York, because it just wouldn't be a fun way to travel. So I don't know. I just, to me, Amtrak is it's, besides the Northeast Corridor, it's just not something that I look at and really, how do I say it? I just don't take it seriously in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, they seem to do a pretty good job getting the Amtraks around the freights around here in Sandusky, though, because I always hear the dispatcher around here telling so-and-so train, I can't think of which one, it would usually be running at middle of the night, though, some of these freights. I'm thinking maybe, I can't think off the top of my head, but anyway, they do a pretty good job routing the Amtrak around the major freights, so on the other track, though, so of course they got a station up here in Sandusky. They have to stop there to pick passengers up, and they let them usually go on by whatever freight might be on the other track, then they'll cross back over at one of the control points. So usually control point 240, which is Campbell Street, though, or something like that, They got another control point down there by the 244, I believe, near the Diamond area. Yeah, near the Diamond area down there. I think it's before that, just right after you get off the bay.
Yeah. No, 242 with the Diamond there.
Yeah.
Where the coal trains go up to the lake, and then 244 at Venice Siding there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's. It seems like they they always have some sort of train tucked away in Venice Siding one day. They
they go in there
remember
all the time.
Yeah. I remember a few weeks ago there was a train that was, I think, re-symboled multiple times to make it look good on the accounting sheet at NS that came in as a 36N. Then it got re-symboled to like a W6N. So some of this goes along with what we're saying with Amtrak. That's part of the problem. But I think at the end of the day, I think Amtrak, like I said, they supposedly have stats where I guess freight train interference resulted in 900,000 minutes of delays, according to the press release. You know, how accurate that is that number embellished? Is that fictitious? Who knows? Obviously, the freight railroads are gonna fight that in court all day, and I think they're gonna kind of just say, like, it's the analogy, Mike, I would use is like, you know, it's like a home team in a football game. Like, you know, the home team's crowd is gonna dictate a big part of the game, and I think if the opposing team can't function, too bad. And that's kind of, I think, how NS and CSX, these other railroads, feel about Amtrak. They say, oh, great, yeah, you have these trains to run, but it's our railroad, and we'll work around you. We'll make things work as good as we can, but it's their line. And yes, I mean, if you have a train like the ones I just mentioned, these 2-mile long manifests where they got like one engine up front, maybe one in the middle. That's you can't hold Amtrak behind that. But when you have these freights, like I was talking to this woman and her kid the other night when I was out at Alliance about the FedEx and the UPSs. I mean, these are big contracts, Mike. That's how these railroads, really make their money.
Absolutely.
So, they're not going to, I think if they see a 26X or a 29G or these hot trains, they're not going to be like, hey, Amtrak, you can just get around that right this second. I mean, that's where they make their money, and they want to keep those things moving too.
Absolutely. Well, like I say, they seem to do a pretty good job around Sandusky. I don't know about your way by Alliance out that way, though. But anyway, yeah, usually I heard this occurs right around 4 to 4:30 in the morning around here. Both of them do come by around that time. Then there's another one early in the morning around, I don't know, probably 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning. One goes by. I've caught a couple of them here on early morning around that time, so I'm not sure which one that would be, the morning one. But they used to have a midnight one, too. I don't know if they're running 4 or 3 or, I don't know, are they running 4 now?
They should be running 2. There should be the Lakeshore, the 48, 49, and then the Floridian 40 and 41, which used to be the Capital Limited, and that's the train that goes all the way to Miami. Runs quite a route to go to Miami. So that train, the westbound version of that train, Mike, it's a northbound, that turns into a westbound in Washington, D.C. That seems like that train has been running late for a long time, and some days it's really late.
Right.
And obviously, talking about poor track or single track, it runs CSX between, say, Raleigh and Savannah. I want to say it runs on the S line, which is not the main line for them. And that might not be as high speed as Amtrak would like. Because that's like that line is used to be a much busier line, and because CSX runs everything on their line that's closer to 95 out there, and a lot of Amtraks use that as well. But they keep that one train goes in like a little inland there, and I think that's where it loses time a lot of times, Mike. So it seems like that train, that Floridian, is just never even close on time.
Wow, it sounds like they're running on the CF and G in the Hooterville run. The one the Cannonball runs. I think I got that right. CF and G, I believe, was the railroad owner. That Homer Bedloe was always trying to scrap the Cannonball and, cause trouble all the time. You know the story.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Anyway, we're at going on 28 minutes here, so maybe we got 7 minutes here we can go. Then we're going to have to let our other colleague go. So what else would you like to add? Do you think we covered quite a bit tonight, or?
We've got quite a bit. There's a couple more things I was going to talk about. CN,
Okay.
who seems like they've come out of this precision scheduling thing pretty well. They have published a 2025-2026 winter plan for handling freight during seasonal challenge as required by Transport Canada. The Class 1 dedicated $3 billion Canadian this year to expand key corridors, added double track sections, and upgraded major yards. About 1.5 billion Canadian. That funding supports Western Canada, specifically key corridors between Edmonton, Alberta, and West Coast ports. They've done some converting with locomotives from direct current to alternating current traction.
Yep.
Are reducing failures in the extreme cold. So that's a big thing they've done. I guess they've added a lot of new cars from last year, a lot of new freight cars. And then they have this whole plan online, Mike. It's pretty detailed from what I understand that CN, is doing. And, it just shows that obviously they have a winter plan. They know it gets cold up there in Canada. And you got to give them a lot of credit for, laying this out. And obviously there's probably some rules and some structure to it. But it just shows that it's good to see a bigger railroad that kind of has their stuff together here. It's a 32-page thing, Mike. And I guess Tracy Robinson, who is one of the she is the president CEO of CN. She writes in the beginning. They talk about these new initiatives, the challenges, and then they kind of show a map, and then they show different pictures of people digging out snow in some of these yards, and they're talking about how you take care of the customers. So all this stuff, Mike, sounds really good. I think CN is definitely one of the stronger railroads. They're doing really well.
Yeah, I know.
It seems like if anyone that doesn't need a merger or the big Class 1s, they seem like they're probably the one that, might be the strongest. I mean, it might be one of the stronger ones. So I don't know. I like what I see with this, Mike. It actually makes sense, and it actually seems like this kind of reminds me of stuff that you would see back in the day when Conrail was around. Like they actually have a game plan for something that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still hearing Canadian National on Wheeling Lake Erie's frequency around here. Old Bill Reynolds, dispatcher down there in Brewster, Ohio, he's not happy with them sometimes because sometimes it just blares over their engineers and you can't hear anything. He's always saying, our friends from Canada are interfering again, or make some kind of remark. So
wow, that's interesting. Yeah, that's super interesting because years ago there was a dispatcher for NS that passed away tragically from Pittsburgh, and he would tell me this time of year he would say they would get a lot of interference from Quebec, and he would say they would have a lot of times they'd be talking to a train going around Horseshoe Curve, and there'd be French Canadians chiming in and interfering, probably like you're saying on the Wheeling there. So, yeah, it's got to be that time of year, Mike, where that's just the radio goes crazy.
Oh, yeah, it's temperature inversion. That's what happens. So with VHF radio frequencies in the summertime, but wintertime that really decreases till it's almost like Deadsville. Sometimes in the wintertime you will get an inversion, though, that you will hear things, but not quite as frequent as in the summertime. I mean,
oh, no doubt. Yeah. Yep. No, I would totally agree.
I mean,
with
it affects a lot of the bands, UHF, VHF, even television, though. Sometimes if I'm watching Fox 8 in Cleveland, some nights, you can't even pick it up because it starts fading out, and I end up getting Lima Channel 8 from Lima, Ohio, in there. Same thing with 19. They broadcast on UHF or VHF on Channel 10 frequency, though, and then Lansing, Michigan comes in.
Oh my God.
So it gets hectic, though, sometimes trying to watch television at late night. This year hasn't been so bad, though, but it has occasionally, though, but not too much this year. So, all right, we're at a little over 33 minutes here.
Yeah, I guess, one last story we'll talk about. I mentioned it briefly. Obviously CSX, it's official now. The Clinch Field through Appalachia has been reopened. Obviously this is a line that, is important to CSX. Obviously it's something that, they, need. There's a handful of trains that use this line, because if they didn't use this line, Mike, they would really have to make a long roundabout route to go from, say, Chicago to the southeast, like areas like Charlotte and places like that. So it definitely is an important line for them, and I'm glad that they're able to get this open. It took a lot of work, millions and millions of dollars, but it'll be interesting to see how this all goes. I mean, some people wondered, with them opening it, would they ever try to increase the clearances on that line to get double stacks and maybe auto racks to run that line with tunnels? But I guess they tried one time. Mistakenly, they sent a double stack down there, and luckily, before the train got to the Clinch Field, they stopped it and they took the double. They rerouted it. But that would be interesting if they could do that, because that would be kind of an easier way for trains to go from, say, Chicago to like Charlotte and down in the southeast. But it's a positive thing. This route is back. There was a thing on YouTube, actually, the dispatcher. I'm trying to think who posted on Train Orders. Somebody posted it. Maybe Scrap Hauler did, or Mark Lingenfelder. One of these guys are always on there, and these guys know so much about what goes on day to day with the railroad. They posted something on there that, like, they heard the opening comments, like the dispatcher was like, the Blue Ridge subdivision is open, and let's run some trains or something.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of a cool moment. But so let's hope that maybe that line is an important piece of the railroad. Maybe they upgrade it a little bit, and maybe, Mike, if there is a merger or something like that, maybe they look and say, hey, that's a easier way to get to the southeast, and we dumped all this money into it. Let's make it as good as we can make it.
Absolutely. You mentioned Clinchfield. In fact, the other night I watched an old movie the other night, though. You ever heard of End of the Line?
Yes, I have, yeah.
There's a movie called End of the Line. It's about Southland Railroad Company giving up railroad, going to air freight, though, and these a brakeman and I think car coupler guy, though, wasn't going to have it, though. They hijack a locomotive and run up all the way to Chicago to the Southland Railroad to consult the CEO, and apparently the president was the CEO's son, though, and the president, though, had no knowledge of it, and boy, was he hot, though. It was a good story, though. Kind of funny and everything, though. But it's a classic movie, though. I enjoyed it, though. I happened to catch it. In fact, I found it on YouTube Movies. And it was free to watch. So, anyway, yeah, you mentioned Clinchfield because that's where the, what do they call that? Repair shop or something, a rail shop or something there. A little place in Arkansas.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I'll have to check that movie out for sure. That sounds like an interesting movie. Yeah,
it's funny, though, but it's a good story. And they ended up buying the rail shop yard and everything, though, for $1 from the present CEO. Because the son wanted to evict him off the property and said he couldn't afford it. Well, the guy finally says, well, I guess I got a damn good deal because I just bought the whole shittery for $1. The CEO holds up a dollar bill at the end, so. Anyway, okay. Excuse me. my orange drink here kind of went down the wrong pipe a little bit. So anyway, going on 38 minutes. So that should that be about it? You think?
Yeah, I just and like that's about it. I actually made a trip out to Alliance the other night for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an interesting spot.
It is a good spot there.
Sat at like where the NS has their maintenance away building there, and obviously the Amtrak station is there. And kind of unique to see a train go down the Bayard line. And it was funny because a lot of the people who were there didn't realize that line was a huge, huge part of the East Palestine detour routes. And a lot of the trains were single stacked, or like the double stack trains were single stacked that went that way. And that was a really important part of the derailment rerouting there. And also when that derailment happened in Attica, there was a couple stack trains that went from like Norfolk to Chicago, or even Columbus to Chicago that came that way. And then they ran around the train there at Alliance so they could send it west. So it is a neat little spot there, kind of, definitely a historic little town. Obviously, that was a spot, Mike, where Conrail basically took a lot of the trains off that Fort Wayne line west of there, and they ran them all up to Cleveland. And as we know, they funneled a lot of trains onto that Chicago line between Cleveland and, Toledo and Elkhart. And God almighty, I mean, there were times people said there were 80 to 100 trains a day on that line in certain times of the year. So, big difference than how it is now. It's obviously changed quite a bit with two railroads going through a spot like Berea, but it was Alliance is a very interesting spot where it kind of set the tone for modern railroading and how freight would move between Chicago and the East Coast.
Okay, very good. Okay, we're at 40 minutes here. So, all right, Dave, thank you for being with us tonight, though, because I got to let some of our colleagues and stations go by here. Kevin WB4AIO will be hosting Natalie, though, bringing news from South Africa and also Canadian news, so, too. Anyway, once again, Dave, I guess we're going to see you back on November 8th again. So, anyway, once again, Dave, thank you very much.
Yeah, sounds good, Mike. Yeah, November 8th is good. Look forward to talking to you then. And, it was great getting back on with a lot of topics to talk about right now, and a lot of uncertainty going forward with the rail industry, with mergers and all these changes.
Okay, very good. Okay, Dave, with that, though, been a little over time here. So, all right, Dave, thank you very much.
Yep, have
and
a good
keep
night,
me
Mike.
informed.
I will.
I sometimes may not answer right away, but eventually I get around to it. I'm busy around here, so very good. Thanks, Dave.
You bet. Yep, have a good night, Mike.
Okay, very good. That was David Coleman from Stow, Ohio, bringing latest things on the railroad infrastructure. So.